Good morning. Grateful to be alive. Grateful for another day to build. Shannon here, and welcome back to Discipline over Motivation Reflections, Episode 2. A thought that stayed with me recently: your best friend and your worst enemy is yourself. The more I reflect on discipline and my own life, the more I realize how true that really is. Not in a dramatic way, not in a philosophical way, but in a very practical and disciplined way. Because when I look back honestly at my life so far, I don't see a series of random outcomes. I see a pattern of actions taken, and more importantly, a pattern of actions not taken. And that realization did not come overnight, it was gradual. It took time to fully understand myself, to observe my habits, my delays, my mindset. For a long time, my life was unstructured. Too much time spent being comfortable, lazing around, delaying things I knew I should do, saying, I will start Monday, I will begin later, I will do it when I feel ready. And that cycle repeated quietly, not because of wrong decisions, but because of inaction. That is something I've become very aware of. It was not reckless actions that shaped my current position, it was delayed action, avoided action, unscheduled action. And the results of my inaction are a very big reason why I am where I am today. That is a difficult realization, but it is also a clarifying one. Because once you stop blaming circumstances, you start seeing patterns. You see how many opportunities were not lost externally, but internally delayed. The Bible says in Galatians chapter 6 verse 7, a man reaps what he sows. And discipline makes that verse feel real because what you sow daily is not just effort, it's decisions, it's follow through, it is consistency or the lack of it. For me, the biggest shift did not come from motivation, it came, it came from clarity. Clarity that my biggest, best support and biggest resistance both come from within. There was no single dramatic moment, it was gradual. But getting closer to God and reading the Bible gave me a different level of insight. It made me more aware of responsibility, more aware of discipline, and more aware how my internal choices shape my external life. Now my life is very different structurally. My entire day is scheduled from the time I wake up to the time I sleep. Work blocks, workouts, meals, recovery. Everything is mapped, not out of obsession, but out of alignment, because I realized something very simple. If something is not scheduled, it is easier to delay. And if it is easier to delay, it often does not get done. And that is where your worst enemy quietly operates. Not in big failures, but in small negotiations, especially in the first few minutes of the day. For me, the first 5 minutes after waking up are the toughest. That moment where the mind says, go back to sleep, delay a little more, start later. Earlier, I used to negotiate with that voice. Now I don't. I just do what is scheduled. because I have realized that discipline grows where and when negotiation reduces. Your best friend is the version of you that follows through. Your worst enemy is the version of you that waits for the right time. And if I am truly truthful, my biggest internal resistance was always this: knowing that I had potential, but waiting for the right time to act, waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect motivation, the perfect moment. But the right time rarely arrives, and life quietly moves forward based on what you do now, not what you plan mentally. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That renewal is deeply connected to discipline because discipline is not just a physical structure, it is a mental order. It is deciding that action will not depend on mood, it is deciding that execution will not depend on comfort, it is deciding that purpose will not depend on convenience. And once that mental shift begins, clarity increases. Now I see discipline differently, not as restriction, but as alignment, not as pressure, but as direction. Because when your mind is clear, your actions become consistent. And when your actions become consistent, your life slowly becomes structured. And with structure comes peace. Faith has also played a major role in this clarity. Getting closer to God has helped me understand purpose more clearly, not in a loud way, but in a quiet, grounding way. It removes confusion, it reduces internal chaos, and it strengthens internal direction. And that is where your best friend truly develops through clarity, through discipline, through consistency, not through sudden bursts of motivation. Now, my thought process is simple: do it now, do it now, do it now. Not aggressively, but intentionally. Whatever needs to be done is scheduled and then executed. Because I no longer want to live a life shaped by hesitation, I want to live a life shaped by disciplined follow through. And the truth is, we all live with both forces within us: the part that builds and the part that delays, the part that executes and the part that negotiates, the part that moves forward and the part that waits. Your best friend and your worst enemy is not the world, not the circumstances, not even your environment. It is the voice within that decides whether you act or delay. Guard that voice, discipline that voice, and align that voice. Because once the internal alignment improves, external progress becomes inevitable. One schedule action at a time, one disciplined decision at a time, and one day of follow through at a time. And slowly, your best friend becomes stronger than your worst enemy. And that is where real transformation begins.